Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Good morning and welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris, and boy, it is shaping up to be something pretty nice here in the Chicagoland area. The sun is shining. We're looking forward to a high of 74 degrees today. How are things shaping up in your neck of the woods? So here we are. Welcome to today's installment. Like I said, it is Tuesday, the 18th, 19th. Boy, I'm trying to hold it back. This month is flying by, right? We'll be sitting around the turkey table before you know it. What are your plans? I'm just curious. I've had a lot of you. I've been getting some emails and things when I ask this question. A lot of you are saying that you're going to have some split decisions, if you will, this holiday season. I know that some families are splitting houses, the non-vaccinated versus the vaccinated, and allowing all the young people to communicate via the Zoom application. So I'm just curious, how are you guys doing? We're keeping it close to home. We usually host it, but this year we're just going to stay home, just the two of us. Just the two of us making something in the sky. So anyway, yeah, I'm just curious because everything's so different. Oh, yesterday, man, sad day for the world. Sad day. Of course, you know I'm speaking of the loss of Colin Powell, former Secretary of State, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and just an overall, what a blessing this man was to the world. I salute you, sir. Yes, I do. And man, what a loss, huh? Fully vaccinated and passed away due to complications from COVID. So, you know, I don't know I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do or anything, but nothing that happens is ever for just one reason. So take a look at it, think about it, and make the decision that is best for you and your family. So I want to send a shout out to our good friends over at Heart of Hollywood magazine, and want you to know that the holiday issue, Bathrobe Moments, is on the back of this magazine for the next 2 years. Thank you to CEO and founder of Heart of Hollywood Motion Pictures and Heart of Hollywood Magazine, Giovanna Salas, for blessing us so immensely. Can't say enough about them. But anyway, the new issue is on sale. Right now, you can pre-order it, and I'm going to give you the best way to do that. It's a great magazine. I want you to get inside and take a look. heartofhollywoodmagazine.com/subscribe is how you get your copy, coming out in December. Okay, so let's see what else. I couldn't. Remember yesterday morning, I usually do on Monday, I do a little recap about the news. And I said, well, I didn't see anything in there interesting enough. It was also depressing. And it was like 20 minutes after we shut the show down. We got the news about Colin Powell. So be careful what you asked for, right? What else? Oh, coming up a week from this Sunday, the new iHeartRadio show, where I'm so excited. Thank you. Shout out to the iRock Space Radio family for bringing me aboard, co-hosting with my girl, the Galaxis Gal. Our show is Cosmo Sapiens, airing every Sunday at 7 a.m. and again at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on iHeartRadio. So more info as we draw closer to the big premiere a week from this Sunday. And finally, they came yesterday and picked up what was left of this display in our yard. There was probably 2 balloons left and a whole bunch of flat ones all over the yard, but they cleaned it up. It was a wonderful 4th anniversary. And again, finally, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you that sent love, light, and laughter to us over the weekend as we celebrated our 4th anniversary. So who do we have today? Y'all, let me tell you. I'll ring the bell of purpose. Let me tell you about that in case you're here for the first time. The bell of purpose is not some clever gimmick. It's not just a show prop. It is an opportunity. It's a reminder that just like that bell, when you hear it ring, the truth has a ring to it as well. And when I ring the bell, it is to remind us, because we get busy. We're doing multiple things while we're listening. And so I don't want you to miss it. I want you to back the car up. Take some of this goodness home with you. Can I get an amen? There it is. And at this point every day, I ask you to help me welcome my sidekick. She's my version of Ed McMahon. She's my best gal. Been with me all 6 years of Bathrobe Moments. This is Lucy McGillicuddy-Ricardo. And today she showed up maple. Yes, I'm drinking fall coffee all month long. Maple is today's flavor. What's in your cup? Put it in the comments, please. I am interested. So today I am so honored and so excited to have someone who's been here never before, first time ever. I speak of John Preston. He is currently a firefighter with the Palo Alto Fire Department. I believe that's the town that Stanford University is in. He's also a film producer at 22&U, works at Concore Entertainment. He's also a recording artist, currently signed with Sony Music Entertainment, a brand ambassador for Grunt Style. You heard me right, Grunt Style. And he's also a former Marine. Now, he used to record at Pacific Records and lives currently in Danville, California, but hails originally from Warsaw, Kentucky. Quite a spread there, and boy, has he done a lot. So the first thing I wanted to let you know, and thank you so much for all your sacrifice and service, John, and this story is going to absolutely impact your day, your week, your month, your year. I guarantee you that. So now would be a great time to share this broadcast out. Seriously, you're going to be touched today in a way I don't believe you've ever been touched. And I mean that from the heart. I'm going to ring the bell because it is the truth. Okay. So I thought I would start by giving you a little peek into this great guy and some of the things that we're going to talk about before he gets in here. So let's see. Here we go. Take a look at this, and I think you're going to love what you see.
We got a couple Marine combat vets in studio with us today.
Come fly with me to the wasteland,
including professional musician John Preston.
We'll get high and we'll get wasted. instead. Don't have to face it, throw it all away.
We're going to be talking about a big hike to raise awareness.
CBS News exposed a hidden epidemic of suicide among military veterans.
We started this! We started this!
First responder suicides have reached epidemic proportions.
We're gonna finish it! We're gonna finish it!
My older brother lost his fight with post-traumatic stress, and he took his own life. And his loss made me realize I really have to do something.
We're going to tell the whole world about this, okay?
And I called my girlfriend and I said, if I was going to do something really crazy, put on a pack and hike 600-700 miles, would you support this? And she was like, yeah, totally. And I knew then, like, that was it. This is what I need to do.
I lost my brother to suicide 3 months ago. My story was so similar, I had no choice but to come.
When the pain hits, it hits just as hard as day one.
Got it?
Yeah.
Situation calls for another breakdown, another shot from my flash.
Thanks for everything you're doing. It's so cool. The fire service has picked us up and carried us in every city that we've been in.
Still hear the sounds of the mortar rounds whipping over my head.
He was telling me something was wrong, and I missed it.
22 a day, right?
I'm helpless, I'm screaming, but no one can hear what I'm saying.
The weight of that pack really brought home to me the weight veterans and first responders carry.
Let's do it.
Won't you just take me away? I fought this war.
We're showing people that it's okay to have post-traumatic stress. It's okay to ask for help, and we can fight this shit together.
I know what you're going through.
Keep it up, brother. Veterans and first responders, we're not the kind of people that normally say, I need help, you know?
Said before you would go, I've never seen a stronger man.
We didn't know anything about this until somebody called me and says, hey, there's some veterans walking.
All the way to San Diego.
All the way to San Diego.
The statistics on line of duty death is way off course. Suicide is the way that the majority of firefighters will go out, unfortunately.
Now before I can go,
Laguna Beach Fire, showing everybody up.
We're going to have 23-mile days, you know, but that's okay. That's one for Chastity, right? There's still more to do.
We're in Long Beach, California.
And now what we need to do is put it into the hands of the people, get on the ground and talk to them and show them they're important and we can go forward.
one life! One life! One life! We're gonna finish it!
Carry the load. Pick up your rucksack. I pick mine up. I'll carry it the rest of my days.
Shaking my head. Right? I'm gonna just let that hang out there for a second. Seriously. I'm gonna ask something of you all today that I've never asked, and that is I want you to really pour into this. Pay attention. Really listen. Really listen. You heard someone in that clip say, all the signs were there, but I missed it. I've never experienced it like that, but trust me, I'm pretty sure none of us wants to say those words. So in order to help make that a reality, we have John Preston here today to share a story. So you guys, you know how we are when someone's been here. We go the extra mile. We not only pour our hearts into the illuminated conversation, but we put some hearts on the screen and we get this out to as many people as we can. This is the power of we, never the power of me. So as we embrace that, and I know I can hear you saying it, can I get an amen? Yes, you can. Put your hearts together, put some light into it as we bring to the stage our guest today, John Preston. Here he comes. Hi, John. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Lauren? How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm going to dress the screen up a little bit for us today. Thank you, first of all, for getting up so early. You're on the West Coast. And so it is just after 6 a.m. there. So I appreciate that. And you told me earlier when we first came in, before we came out here, that you had been at, I think, Disneyland, right?
Yeah, that's where we're at right now. We're actually, fortunately, we got an apartment versus a hotel room, so I don't have to be in here with my new baby and the rest of the family going, hey, what's going on?
Congratulations. How old is this new baby?
So she's 6 months old right now. The brightest thing on earth. I was watching the trailer there with you, and so much life has happened in that time, right? Like, and people talk about 2020 being such a hard year. 2020 was the greatest year of my life. It's really weird to say, but I started that hike in January of 2020. We spent the entire rest of that year going around shooting this film and meeting these other incredible people that I had hiked with and sitting down and getting their stories. And then to add to it, we conceived a baby and we got married in November of 2020, you know. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I hear myself saying my girlfriend in that, and I'm like, no, that's my wife, and that's the person.
Don't worry, she don't break you that. You won't be saying it for long. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, only in that video. I don't say that at all anymore. But
you mean it's that video you heard? Then you're like, wow.
Yeah. So
well, listen,
life's good, man.
We're really happy you're here. We have a lot of ground to cover, but before we get into the what I've referred to as the ooey chewy center of the Tootsie Pop, let's talk about your backstory. Where did you grow up, and give us a little insight into the relationship that you and your brother had, and take it on up to where we're going today.
That's such a wild and long and different story. The first thing I want to say, and I want to put this out there because I don't think people say this enough, especially people that work their way to the top and they get there. I don't think that there's any circumstance in life, especially being blessed enough to be born in the United States of America. I don't think there's any circumstance in life that you don't have the ability to think your way out of. And I think that everybody has an opportunity to move forward and be great and do whatever it is that you're dreaming of.
I agree.
So I started my life on a farm in Kentucky. My father worked at times, a lot of times, 3 jobs to, keep the house afloat. He was a Vietnam veteran. Grew up in a household with someone dealing with post-traumatic stress. And at the time, none of us even knew what that meant, right?
Right.
3 boys and mom and dad fighting and struggling to keep us afloat. My dad did something smart young, and he bought a farm that he knew that he could at least keep that and keep us with some property and something to do. And I grew up pretty poor in most times, and it was a struggle and a fight just to survive. But what I came from was a background of Marines, right? My father was a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Both my older brothers went in the Marine Corps prior to me. So I knew, I think going into it, that was going to be my way out, and that was going to be what kind of would hopefully change and alter my life.
So when you say your way out, what do you mean? Your way out of what?
That world. I never felt like I was supposed to be there. I felt like I was born in like the wrong place. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I love Kentucky. And I mean, it's a weird feeling. It's something I've had my whole life. I've worked jobs to help my family. I did all these things, and in every job and every place that I had been in, I always felt out of place, like I wasn't supposed to be there. The first time, honestly, that I felt gratified was in the Marine Corps, and then for years until I became a firefighter, I didn't feel right again. And then once I was in the fire service, I was like, okay, this feels good too. I think I just needed to work myself into a place where I could continue to do service and do it on a large scale. Mm-hmm. And that's why I never feel accomplished. Therefore, I have to keep going. And that's why things just keep getting bigger and bigger,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
yeah, but to go back, my family was a loving family. They were also a very aggressive family to each other and to us every once in a while. But it was normal to me, growing up in that world. Looking back on it, now being married into in my life 2 different families that were very like calm and happy and fun. I was like, oh my god, like were my parents like abusive? Like you go through those kind of things because the world you came from, like, it was perfectly normal to me to come from that kind of thing and to come out of it and be where we're at, understanding now more about my brother's mental health and the things that happened. So
well, let's talk
growing
about
up,
that. Let's talk about that. We got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm gonna keep it moving along. Okay.
high pace.
Somebody's here today that I know is going to definitely be blessed by what they hear, and I don't want them to miss it. So we're gonna make sure we get it in. Let's talk about what you just mentioned, your brother's mental health. Now let's talk prior to going into the military. Were there any signs?
So he had it hardest out of all of us growing up because he was the oldest in the family, and I think he felt some responsibility. He was 9 years older than me. It wasn't like this, couple years apart kind of thing.
Sure.
And there was a point in time where he was my basketball coach. He was, doing all these things that were a father role. And I'm not saying my father was a bad father. My father worked a lot.
But did you feel he had because some people have depression, some people have ADHD, there's PTSD from maybe something or anything. Was there anything that was he seeing anybody, or was he just a normal kid?
He was a normal kid. He felt over responsible. He always felt like he had to be taking care of everyone, which is
sure.
That's a wound that becomes a mental health problem later. Like feeling like you have to be the person that's always taking care of everyone else. That becomes
and a lot of people kind of who are the first in the family feel that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, So, but what I'm getting at here, John, is was in there. A lot of people here that watch know about the 22 service members per day is the average that commit suicide. We've had Andre Rush here, White House chef, who his big platform is to bring attention to that number. But you have another element inside your mission that doesn't usually ride sidecar to the military suicide issue, and that is also first responders. I didn't realize it. So what I want to know is, the road that this led to with your brother, what was his name? Michael. So, because I don't want to just not speak his name. We need to speak his name. He was a real person, and he's still teaching people. So Michael, when he came back, how long was he home from the service before you started feeling or seeing things happen, or maybe not at all? But how long had he been home before this happened?
He got out of the service in the early, or I think like 2000 is when he got out and started his life. The problem was Michael was a police officer for 20 years.
Okay.
So he had this constant run of pressure, this constant run of different incidents that were going to continue to go through the rest of his life. And you talked about that concept of I should have seen it. I should have recognized it. We did recognize it, but at the time when we lost Michael, we had just lost our father. Like we lost our father 6 months prior to losing Michael, and all of us kind of went into a spiral, right? And this was the guy that was a puppeteer for the whole family and able to, keep us on the right track. He was who I called every day to talk about music, and he was who my brother confided in for a lot of things as well. The spiral effect created the rest of us within the family really not paying attention to anyone else's mental health because we were so selfishly caught in our own issues. Michael had a lot of post-traumatic stress. He had a lot of calls that were heavy calls from a murder of an infant to, being a police officer showing up first on a fire that people are dying in, lots of vehicle accidents that caused a lot of problems. And you forget, especially with police officers, when they're first on scene, they don't always have the tools to fix people that are broken. We show up in the fire service with the tools. It's bad on all of us, but that moment of helplessness, and it can last a long time with them, especially being a police officer in a rural area of Kentucky. It does damage. What people don't understand is, and I use the backpack reference, right? We just keep stuffing everything into the pack. And we stuff everything into the pack, and we keep pulling on because we feel like it's our responsibility, especially in that hero role, that we should be carrying the weight for everyone else. That was my concept with the pack in the hike, that I was going to carry the weight for everyone else.
Okay, but before we get into the hike, which was more than a hike, seriously, let's a little bit more. Let's just address just a little bit more, if we could, this thing about, what you see, you can't unsee it. Things you hear, you cannot unhear. And a lot of us don't realize that when people see tragedy day after day after day after day, it's a difficult thing. It rides home in the car with you, even though you've left the job site. So you're from a family of people who in one way or another have always been around this sort of thing, either in the military or, working as a first responder. Is this something that your families like this talk about? Is this something that they worry about? It will find its way to your door, or has it just recently become something that is talked about? Because I had no idea about the first responder element. I really didn't. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we don't know about that?
I wish we would have. Like, if I could go back, I would have talked about it. I think my father was quiet about his time in Vietnam. He didn't tell me anything until I was going to combat in Iraq. And they came from a generation that was, hey, suck it up, man. Like, and I remember hearing that my whole life. And I was the emotional, sensitive one of the family, right? I'm the artist. So it was always like, hey, suck it up, eat it, deal with it. So
do you think that's a legitimate, authentic feeling, or is that just a way to keep it at bay so that it doesn't come tearing through everything?
Well, it's a way to press down all the goods inside of the pack so that you can snap it really quickly, right?
Putting it in.
Yeah. And I think it's the worst advice that anyone can give anyone is suck it up. Even if it's, hey, go cry it out, at least then you're blasting that out of your system and you're starting over. And we didn't talk, man. We didn't talk at all, and it was something I wish we would have. If we did, it was in like a pissing contest concept, right? Of I've done more than you kind of thing. And I just wrote a song about that that's going on my next album. That was him and I, face to face, getting ready to fight when my dad was in the hospital dying. And the only things that ever came out were, I've done this better than you, or I've done more than you, and it's such a terrible concept. Ego is a monster. And I really wish that we could have just sat in. That was my best friend in life. In the last few months of our lives, we barely spoke because of our egos, because of our family taking a shot, and both of us, thinking that we had to step up and take care of the family because we're both heroes. We're both in that world. We're both, if only one of us would have been working that kind of job, doing that kind of thing, living that every day, maybe only one of us would have stepped up and thought it was our time to take over. And it was a terrible concept that drove me away from him, which I think he was pushing me away anyways, but it drove a best friend away, like someone that I confided in him my whole life. He rarely confided in me because of being super older brother, right? But I wish I would have
weakness or anything.
I just wish I would have had my chance, to be there for him. And
how do you know you weren't?
I
wait a minute. Well, I mean, what I mean by that, John, is you were best friends. I know you were there, But you know, it's when we make a concerted effort to conceal something, especially something like that. I know because I've done it. We, you know, we're Oscar worthy at that point. We really are. So, you know, and they do say that, you know, with suicide, it just one of the most horrible things is it leaves so many casualties in its wake. It really does. You know, everybody goes back and we had a suicide in our family just 2 years ago, right after COVID hit. My brother-in-law took his own life, and so I get it. I mean, instantly. I mean, once that happened, I heard his final voicemail to my nephew, his namesake Jojo, and I couldn't even finish listening to it because I could hear it in his voice now. But all the other times when he would say stuff like that about this chronic pain and stuff, we were so used to saying, "Oh, that's just Joe." You know, he's the guy who walks around with a baby food jar showing you how many screws they took out of his spine. And like, look at this one and that and the other. And we thought, okay, he's kind of getting dementia or something. But what I learned from that is when people are speaking their truths to us, it is their truths. And if it's real to them, then it's real. It's real, you know? And so I want to ask you, let's go into this first responder suicide thing. Now, the number 22 that we hear so often associated to the suicide rate per day, 22 per day for military. What's the number? Is there one for the first responders?
Tracking hasn't been easy because I don't think they're tracking retirement very well, which is kind of you get away from the rest of the world, and that is more prevalent. Drinking is worse, things like that once retirement happens a lot of times, but because you're retiring kind of young. But right now the police officers are like one every day and a half ish. It's close to one a day. It depends on the year.
Just in the United States.
Just in the United States. And then fire is one every 3 days. So we're losing one of our fellow police officers or one of our fellow firefighters one every 3 days as well.
So when a person joins the force or the department, is there anything in there as far as, you know, like, you know, they do sensitivity training and inclusion and all of this. Is there anything in there about if you're feeling signs of this, blah, 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 blah? Does anyone talk about it, or is it just like a big elephant in the room?
It's a very new concept within the fire service. I couldn't speak for police officers. I definitely could speak for the Marine Corps when I was in there back then, and that was a very suck it up situation, right? I don't know how that's working now, and I think there is a purpose and a need for to treat and create Marines the way they create them. I just think that we need to work on how we get them back into society, right? But as far as the fire service, you're seeing it now. You're seeing it now in fire academies. They're at least putting a couple days emphasis on mental health. That I've kind of like from doing what I did, I've kind of gotten a little more depth into some of the people that are working on that in the fire service. And it goes all the way up to the top of the IAFF, which isn't every firefighter in the country, but it's every unionized firefighter in the country. And they've put it on display. In some of the recent bigger meetings, it's come out that we want to focus on mental health. There's such an old school mentality to firefighters, though, that it's spoken about, it's saying it, but are we actually acting properly to assure?
Well, a lot of people, there's the stigma, of course. The stigma that's attached to mental health. You bring that up, people think you're crazy. And so it's one of those things that really ranks up there with religion and politics. People just don't want to talk about it. But nonetheless, it is something that definitely needs to be addressed and talked about more and more. The conversation must be had. So listen, we're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about this mission you went on. And all the wonderful things we saw in the clip, all the people that came out. I just think it's a fantastic story. We'll get into the movie, get into the music, and a whole lot more. So listen, you guys, I want you to share this out as we go to commercial. Invite people in. I guarantee you, you're not going to regret it. You're going to hear some things that I'm certain you didn't know. There's no way you could. So listen, we'll be right back. Share this out. Don't you dare go away. See you in just a second.
I received this insight about a title called Prisoner of War. The book
to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. We're inside the conversation regarding mental health, suicide, and military as well as first responders with John Preston. I'll get John in just a second, but before I do, I just wanted to remind you of a great choice. You know, small shifts, big choices, small choices, big shifts. Whatever it is, neither of those things can happen unless you are actionable. I am so glad that I was actionable. About a year ago, I traded in the Diet Coke and the Red Bulls and all of those sort of things for this. V8. Why? Because 100% vegetable juice from concentrate, 60 calories per can, and count them, 2 full servings of vegetables in every can. Easy to find. Head down the juice aisle in your local grocer and you'll find it. Don't regret later and say, oops, I could have had a V8. Do yourself a favor, pop the top and have one today, like I am. It's delicious. Tastes just like candy. Ding. Okay, all right, I'm done. So here we go. John, you're back in here. Welcome back. And first of all, how many miles was this trek with the rucksack?
More than we thought. It turned out being 630 miles.
630 miles. So you went from
Palo Alto, California to San Diego.
To San Diego. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how much planning went into this trip?
6 months of just grinding with the planning, and I mean, you can plan all you want to plan. You can't factor in what's actually going to happen when we do that, and especially bringing in film crews and doing things that kind of were unprecedented for us. It was a pretty interesting trek in general, but I hiked for 6 months prior. I basically didn't take a day off. 5 to 10 miles a day kind of was my regular, and then we would hit bigger days just to kind of prepare for the big days because it was 22 miles a day.
So what made you say I want to walk or hike 600 some odd miles? Now, was it actually named to carry the weight, or was that just how the movie came about?
So the film is Carry the Weight. The hike itself is 22NU. And that's our website. Like if you go to 22nu.net, you can pull up and kind of read the whole journey. But it was not like it wasn't supposed to be how it turned out being. Like it turned out being this beautiful, amazing thing. In my mind, and here's the thing, and you talk about it, we made up rules, and I give this as like an information for everyone on earth. If they're your rules, you can break them. If they're your rules, you can change them.
That's right.
because we sit here and we sit stuck in these rules. And if I could go back and tell this to my brother, I would, and I think he'd still be alive. He was stuck in his rules. He thought that if his rules were broken, that his life was over. There were things that happened that brought him to a place that he thought he could not overcome. He was wrong.
John, please tell me you don't blame yourself for this.
No, not at all. I don't.
But you believe the conversation could have changed things.
I think that a lot of conversations could have changed things. I went out there to crush myself. I had no other intention. This was my suicide. I wanted to prepare myself and prove that I could do something like that, right? Like that was all the ego. That was this monster. But
what
at
about
the same
closure?
time,
What about closure, healing? Certainly, there was some of that inside this mission.
there was a whole lot of that. And that was the whole thing. I kind of want to go back out and do it again now for everyone else, because the whole first run was for me, you know, and it obviously was a wonderful healing experience for a lot of people, not just me. But
Speaking of healing, when you finish that thought, go right into what happened with your feet, because that's what really changed the dynamic of this thing and brought in people like we saw in the clip, Ricky Schroeder, Matthew Broderick, and many others. So,
yeah, so that's the whole story. I'll get you that. Let me just quickly preface. I did this because I was already I'm a top 20 artist. I've been in the top 20 in the world multiple times. Speaking about suicide, I felt hollow. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt like there was more that could be done, and that's what the hike was. And I thought if I went out and I destroyed myself, but not just did it, I showed the world how destroyed I was. People could understand what it felt like walking on the other side of suicide, what it felt like to be someone that loved someone so dearly, and now they're gone, and they chose to be gone, you know, and like they lost a struggle with mental health, and they're not here anymore, and it hurts. And I wanted the world to see it hurts, and guess what I got? I got to hurt, and it was terrible. It was the worst experience and pain that I've gone through in my life. People talk about Marine Corps boot camp, fire academies. I'm not someone. As far as the pain goes, it's funny when you assess a patient as an EMS professional. You always ask them 1 out of 10. You know, what's the worst pain you've ever felt in your life? 1 through 10. You tell me what this feels like. My 10 changed. My 10 became a whole different number. Within the first 5 days of the hike, and specifically from Watsonville to Marina, we had a lot of rain, which softened the feet. I switched to the wrong boots. Ended up degloving 2 toes. I don't know if you understand what that means. That means all the skin and everything came off of those toes.
Okay.
Completely.
All right. Okay, that's enough of that. All right, we get it.
He said, "Let me hear about your feet." And so you tell me about your feet.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. Well, you know what? But for real, I know a hangnail on my pinky toe will put me down. Yeah. I'm telling you, Bathrobe Moments is here because I stubbed my toe one day at 10 in the morning and cussed until 2 and asked God to give me something so I could do better earlier in the day, and this is what came from it. So I can't even imagine a degloving of a toe, but you can because you lived it. So these were not anticipated things, even though I'm sure you did the research about insoles and how often to change your socks and all of this stuff. But then this other stuff started happening because it needed to bring in this next component. So when you couldn't walk or were getting very close to not being able to, people didn't want this to end, did they? And what happened?
No, and I got into the biggest battle ever with my ego, right? Because I made up my rules, and I was saying that I couldn't stop. I couldn't put the pack down. I had to do 22 miles a day. I had to do this whole thing because these are my rules, and these are what I said, and this is how it's going to go. right? Anyone struggling with mental health, anyone battling with their own ego is going to say exactly what I was saying. I physically was to a point where I think if we would have kept going exactly how we were going, I wouldn't have made Los Angeles. We were about 200 miles into the hike. We had a day where it turned out being almost a 12-hour day, and typically 22 miles you're doing in about 8 hours. A lot of days we actually had long days, which long mileage days, so they turned out being 10-hour days or whatever. But this was a 22-mile day that took us close to 12 hours. There were times where I was traveling 1 mile per hour. You can see in the video that you showed, there is some scenes from the worst day where I'm barely walking. That was a sock mishap that created that. I put on a thicker sock, which tightened the shoe, which created like a body pain that I couldn't control. Like my body was shutting down saying, no, I'm not doing this. Wild morning. But ultimately, my crew comes out. One of the lead camera guy drives his truck to the end because it's dark outside, turns his headlights on. He comes out to us. We finish this last mile, and they're practically like carrying me. They're pushing me to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I remember throwing the pack off my back and kind of just screaming and venting and like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, I'm not going to be able to finish this. Like, I'm thinking that, and I'm not saying that. We got back to the house that we were staying in that night, and I grabbed the lead camera guy. I said, let's go sit down and interview. I can't do this anymore. I need someone to take the pack. The next morning, I make a post on social media. I break down in this post because I realized then for the first time
that you needed help.
I have to take this off my back.
That you needed help.
That I needed help.
That's what it boils down to. You needed help.
That's my brother in there. That's my father in there. That's my burdens in my life. Why would someone else carry that, right? That's the question. And I am devastated that I need help.
Why? Talk about it. Because that's the thing that stops so many things from happening for all of us. Why do you think, I know you've mentioned ego several times, but it goes beyond that. What have you learned from that? About the acceptance of help?
You have to do it. Like, and that was the thing. And to get to what happened, I make this call, and people come from all over the state, right? They come from everywhere. Social media is blowing up. My phone's blowing up with people that I know. Everyone's coming up with a new idea on how we fix this, what we need to do. Our ultimate decision was to take the pack off at least some of the day, right? So right at about 200 miles, I took the pack off for the first time, which was this like emotional. I was embarrassed for 2 days that I wasn't carrying the pack anymore. With my made up rules, we'll continue to say that, with my made up rules that only I created, I was embarrassed of what was happening. Like, reflectively, that's terrible. Yeah. Yeah.
You already stated at the top of the thing about the struggle with ego.
Yeah.
You know,
so
that's usually a pretty good indicator that it's still in there body slamming us. My, I, me.
Yep.
Right.
And the moment it became we, the moment that people started taking the pack, though I was sitting there abusing myself, they were healing themselves by carrying my burdens.
There you go. Because allowing others the opportunity to help is healing for them as well. Because you don't see corner like lemonade stands where this opportunity is there. Hey, stop here and you can get some healing by helping doing this. It's not, and it's not, and people, and I'm gonna tell you, you know, it's a lot different than going and feeding the homeless or something like that. This is a totally different experience. And I believe that when people came to help you, it helped them unpack a lot of stuff that at first they may not have even known they had in there, or that's where the weight was coming from, or they didn't know there was ever an opportunity in which to unpack by helping someone else, until you and all the people that made this possible presented the opportunity. So tell us, do you remember the first person that took the pack for you? who that
I
was?
do. I do,
Who was
yeah. And that was actually a crew member. That was Mike that took the pack first.
Took the car down and then in total, how many different people besides yourself shared the weight of that pack all the way across the finish line?
It was hundreds. We still had, probably 20 days of the hike left when that happened. So who knows? Because the fire service came out bigger than you could ever come out. And like you said, I think that especially for them specifically and Marines specifically, they look at me as a brother, right? They see me baseline as a brother. So for them to be able to take the pack off, that's carrying the burden for their brother. That's helping their brother make it to the next day. And I think that's even more of an emotional like gain, right? And going around and filming and talking to everyone afterwards, when I asked the question, what did the pack mean to you? That's where we got all of our tears in the interviews. It wasn't the traumas that had happened prior in their life and the things that some of these amazing people had endured. It was that moment of carrying that pack and carrying my burden and my weight
How
for
much
a bigger
did it weigh?
purpose. The pack itself was 50 pounds.
50 pounds. And inquiring minds want to know, what was inside of that pack? Just
So there was
rocks?
some weight. There was some weight because we needed weight, but it was some things from my father, which that was just for me. My dad kind of, he's the person that brought me into the music industry and he's been my soul for a lot of years in my life. And then my brother's a part of his urn with his ashes.
Right.
And then some things that were special to him, jiu-jitsu medals, like his jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so that's what I was getting at. There were things
Yeah.
in there that represented the best of the best.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it was the heart of my family, right? The two most prominent men that really stood out throughout my entire life. And, giving them one more chance to, make a difference in other people's lives. What people don't understand, my brother he was a rock star, man. Like I know I'm the one that plays music. He was a rock star. He was the kind of cop that if he, came on a situation where someone wasn't, financially okay or things like that, he would go out and pick up food and bring someone like a family food for a month kind of thing, right? Like he always worked to keep people on their feet. And so many people after his loss told me about how he had talked them down from suicide. So all these lives that he had saved, these things that he'd done, his funeral had probably, it was a couple thousand people outside this monstrous church in Kentucky that were lined up in -2-degree weather outside to go through this line to go walk past him one more time and say goodbye. This was thousands of people. I know, I'm sure I could draw in a couple thousand people for a show, but these are people like that knew him personally and had stories about him. Unbelievable how many people he had touched in his life and he didn't know. He had no idea what he had done. And,
Speaking of
he
not
was a
knowing,
purposeful, wonderful person,
let me ask this. Was it surprising to you with all these, a couple thousand people and whatnot? I know you didn't get to talk to all of them, but I'm sure everyone wanted to make their way to somebody in the family, let them know that they were there.
Yeah.
Did you hear a reoccurring theme amongst people that they were surprised that this was happening? It seems like a lot of people say, I didn't see this coming. And let's talk about warning signs. In retrospect, are there any signs that you all feel that you missed that you now know were indeed actual red flags?
Yeah.
Give us a few examples that might help someone out there today.
One of the things that displays with post-traumatic stress or even depression and things like that is you kind of push everybody away that has the opportunity to help you, right? And it's what I was doing on the hike too. I the day prior to asking for help, I had been in an argument or a fight with everyone that was close to me, telling them you're against me, you're coming after me, like that whole like that's the ego though, right? It's pushing them away because you don't want them to be there to actually help you and push you to the next spot in life. Think of it as like, this shield around you that's kind of pushing off anyone that could come in and actually give you a hug and hold you and make your life change again. So he displayed a lot of that, and especially afterwards, talking to his really close friends that said, man, I wasn't able to be there for him. It was the same thing I said, right? We've been fighting because of Dad. I couldn't be there for him. And then they had similar stories, right, of why he had pushed them away in the last 5 months or whatever. So,
so it was kind of like, you too? What? I didn't know he was pushing you away too. Almost like the front of the horse didn't know what the back of the horse was doing.
Exactly. And the lights come on, but at that point it's too late. And, people will show you signs of depression by, their attitude, their things that they're displaying as far as the energy that's out. If that's not the person that you've known and loved, if it's someone that you're living with, whatever,
right?
Ask them why they're not. Don't come at them like, I can't believe you're acting this way, blah, 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 because ask them why they're not acting like themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't assume. John, we've only got 2 minutes left. And before we get out of here, I'd like you to tell people about Carry the Weight, the movie, where they can find it. Is it out yet? And what they'll find if they visit you at johnprestonmusic.com. That's pretty self-explanatory, but there may be some things there. And scrolling across the bottom, 22andU.net. Got about 1 minute and a half.
Yeah, so if you want to learn about the film, just go to 22andU.net. Follow my music. We're going to have an album that I wrote and recorded after. I mean, that's a whole nother interview if we did that, but it's telling this whole story that's going to be the soundtrack of the film. All of that will be coming in the next year. We got some post-production work to do. We got some new friends that we just met that we will be really putting down the grind and finishing the film up. The film is shot. It's just the edit that we're looking at right now. And if you want to be part of that, shoot me a DM. If you have ideas or concepts and you want to get involved with what we're actually doing. Our goal right now is to reach as many people as possible and save lives. I want people to see that moment where we had to ask for help and realize that it's okay to ask for help.
Amen. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We're going to have to get you back here sometime. There's much more ground to cover. And with these life-changing stories, oftentimes, of course, 1 hour is not nearly enough. But you can continue the dialogue with John if you so choose, simply by following the links on the screen now. Or, as he said, give him a DM over on Facebook, Instagram, at John Preston. Is it at John Preston Music or at John Preston?
Yeah, John Preston Music for Facebook, Instagram, all of that, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Listen, I want to thank you again, seriously, for coming in and pouring into us. I know it's not all, I don't think it ever gets easy, but it's still necessary. And we really appreciate your candor and your willingness to just put it all out there so we can save as many lives as possible. For the rest of you, listen, get out there today and be the very best version of yourself. I want you to remember something about what we've been talking about here today. Lies. And that's what the dictator does when it speaks to us about what we aren't, what we can't be, what we'll never be. Those are lies. And those lies only work if we are allowing them to get us all alone. Now, when I say all alone, it means it could be just you and I individually, all alone. Or if we are a community, a household, what have you, of numerous people that are not sharing the conversations like John brought up today. Again, if we're not talking, we're together, but we're still all alone. I want to leave you with that. Think about it. Take it with you. Look for the signs. They are everywhere. This life is built around clues. Don't forget that. I'll join you tomorrow morning, God willing, again at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'll meet you out front on the front porch, where our guest tomorrow is Rob Johnson, CBS anchor, Emmy Award-winning news anchor. He's back, got something really great to share with us, and I can't wait. Get out there today and be your very best. and be even better than that to everyone else. Thank you, John. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Lauren.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine.